You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. Gold, crude oil, corn, soybeans, and more. With so many tradable products, the futures options market can be an intimidating place. How can you possibly keep track of the latest trading developments across so many different products? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Welcome to This Week in Futures Options, the program designed to help active futures options traders stay on top of this ever-changing marketplace. Each week, we'll break down the top trades, hot products, volatility explosions, and much more. This Week in Futures Options streams live, so be sure to check out our live stream via the Mixlr app. That's MIXLR. Or join our live chat room at mixlr.com/options-insider. Whether you're an experienced veteran or a newcomer looking to separate the wheat from the lean hogs, This Week in Futures Options has the information you can't find anywhere else. This Week in Futures Options is brought to you by CME Group, the world's leading and most diverse futures and options exchange. For more information and educational resources about futures options at CME Group, visit cmegroup.com/options. And now, get ready to break down the latest futures options trading activity. It's time for This Week in Futures Options.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again and ready to rock here on TWIFO, This Week in Futures Options. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks are mainlining. At least you should be these days. Especially important these days for fans of TWIFO to be listening to the full network, because we just added a new show that is right up your alley. Yes, I'm talking about the Futures Rundown. Just got episode 3 yesterday. So check out the full network feed wherever you're getting this: Apple, Audible, YouTube, you name it, Spotify. It's all there, listeners. Make sure you go for Options Insider Radio Network. That full network feed will get you all of our shows, nearly a dozen, so you don't miss a thing. You don't want to miss a thing at the end of the day. And if you want even more goodness above and beyond, the optionsinsider.com/pro. That'll get you not one, but 2 additional shows, pro Q&As, and of course, options oddities. Also get you early access, like I'm down here. If I sound a little bit different this week, I'm down at the Securities Traders Association National Conference here in scenic and quite warm, triple-digit warm Orlando, Florida this week. So if you want to hear my chats I'm having as we open up the Southern Studio once again with a wide variety of people, then you can check those out early over there on the Pro as well. An added bonus for our Pro folks: live streams, giveaways, all sorts of fun. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we keep on rolling, just me, just the facts this week, listeners. So you know what? That means I get to choose, because it is time for the Movers and Shakers Report.
It's time to find out what's rallying on the light side and falling to the dark side at CME Group this week. It's time for the Movers and Shakers Report.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Movers and Shakers, the portion of the show we break down what is lighting it up to the light side and to the dark side this week over there at CME Group. And spoiler alert, we're coming hot off the heels of a big Fed rate cut this week, 50 basis points. A lot of people were thinking 25. They went whole hog. They went 50 basis points, half a point, listeners. So no surprise, we're seeing a lot of green on the screen this week. We could do, I would say, a bottom 10, a dark side 10, but that would really be about it. We're kind of stretching it at that point out there. Everything else is pretty much green this week. So that means, you know what, I will start on the dark side because there's just not a heck of a lot of it out there. In terms of largest percentage movers, we're also dominated to the light side again this week. So an action-packed week to the upside. We'll get there in a second. First, to the dark side we go. Number 5, it's our old pal, the Ultra 30-year, off 1.35%. At number 5 to the dark side in the right side we go to number 4, to the Ags, Chicago wheat, listeners, off 2.12%. Then from the Ags, we go to number 3, to energy. It is nat gas, off 2.54%. It was number 1 in the other direction last week, up 17.33%. So giving back a little bit off the top, but still up quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. From the energy at number 3, we go back to the Ags at number 2. It's our old pal Oats, off about 2.75%. And number 1 to the dark side, keeping it in the Ags, it is KC Wheat, off about 3.25%. In fact, looking here at the dark side, it's pretty much mostly Ags, a smattering of rates as you might expect. You have nat gas slipping in there as well. Get a little bit of dairy in there, 5-year and 10-year, and the yen USD. And then we also have a little bit of consumer staples and real estate sector out there on the equity side. But it is pretty ag heavy to the dark side this week. All right, to the light side we go. As I mentioned, we could do a light side 50 this week, listeners, but we'll keep it to 5. Number 5, kicking it off in energy, it's RBOB. What the heck is RBOB anyway? Got to tune in to the futures rundown to find out, listeners. Up 5.4% this week. Number 4, from the energy sector we go to equities, in particular, the E-mini S&P Mid-Cap 400. Say that one 5 times fast. Up 5.45%. Not an equity index we talk about a lot, but it has some movement out there, obviously. If it did a little bit more options paper, it might be something to sink our teeth into. Number 3, keeping it in the equities, it is the energy sector of the S&P 500. So drilling down right into the energy side, which is kind of interesting, up 5.23%. Number 2, still in energies, listeners, it's our old pal, the Russell 2000, just taking the bit in its teeth this week, up 6.33%. And number 1, the big dog, also the biggest percentage mover on our docket this week. We're going out to crypto. It's Bitcoin, up 8.39%. So Bitcoin loving itself a little post-Fed action. Who says Bitcoin isn't correlated to other assets? Well, you folks do. We'll get to all that fun in a little bit out there, listeners. But first, before we get to all that fun in the futures options feedback, let's do a little bit of the old CVOL movers and shakers for this week. Remember, type CME and CVOL into whatever browser you're rocking. We don't judge. Once you're there, you'll get to the dashboard. Then just set the high-low range for the dashboard to 1 week, and then go to an ordered list, and you will see exactly what we're looking at here, listeners. Number 1, starting at the top of our list this week, listeners, energy. Topping our list on the CVOL movers and shakers. Energy CVOL coming in at a 47.05. Kind of a mixed bag this week. We have roughly half of our names pinning the needle to the upside from a vol perspective. A few others kind of middling in between, and one pinning the needle to the dark side this week. So very mixed bag on the vol front, which is interesting. At the top of our list, though, energy up 0.64 today, and also pinning the needle for the week. The low was 46.29. So an interesting range for the energy CVOL. Right behind it, we have the commodities aggregate CVOL, 31.05, up about a third of a point today, and also pinning the needle for the week. The low was 30.71. Below it, we have the metals aggregate CVOL, 18.58, up about a quarter of a point today, and also pinning the needle for vol for the week. The low was 17.26. So the first 3 right out of the gate, pinning the needle for vol. The rest, more of a mixed bag. Right below it, we have the ag product CVOL, 1862. So metals and the ag product CVOL both hanging out at about exactly the same level right now, which is interesting. That's off about a quarter of a point today. And this one pinning the needle to the dark side for the week right now. The high was 1960, so almost a full point above that set last week. So interesting range for metals vol. They're coming for it this week. And then FX below that, 7.58, off a quarter of a point today. So coming for FX vol today. On the week, though, kind of hanging out towards the upper end of its range. The low was 7.03. The high was 7.86, hanging out again at a 7.58 right now. Below it, we have the Treasury price vol, 627, off about a third of a point today. The range for the week, 6 exactly to the dark side and 6.57 to the upside, so off about a third of a point from the high, I should say. And then rounding out our list this week, the Treasury yield vol, 118.47, off about exactly 6 points today. On the week, it's had a range of 111.66 to the dark side, 114.49 to the upside. That's going to do it for our CVOL movers and shakers this week. But now, listeners, it is a Just the Facts Ma'am edition. Let's get some data into our hot little hands. Let's sink our teeth into a little bit of options flow, though, as well this week. And since there's so many equities dominating our light side this week, and we are coming off post-Fed action, I think we will start in the equities this week.
It's time to explore the volatility swings, skew changes, and hot options trades in your favorite indices. It's time to talk equities.
All right, listeners, go into that drop down. CMEgroup.com/TWIFO is the place to go to follow along with the show. If you haven't done so already, they will ask you to make an account with CME. It's free, takes a couple of minutes, but then you have access to all of this data goodness. Once you're in there, go into that drop down, scroll down a few slots to equity indexes, and then we're going to go to US Index E-mini, and then from there, because it is lighting up our tape this week, up over 6%, we got to make a stop in the Russell 2000 this week. As we're kicking off the show, Russell 2000, 22 double, up over 70 handles just since Monday, or 3.25%. Of course, if you go back to the end of our show last week, it's up nearly, actually over 6%, 6.36% to be precise. So a action-packed week out there for the Russell 2000. That is reflected in the options volume as well. 75,000 contracts on the tape. That's a long way from the 12 to maybe 20,000 it used to do. When it hit 20,000, that was a very active week for RUT. So 75,000, nothing to sneeze at all. Because it is an equity, fully a third of that paper is going up in the contract that expires in 0.8 of a day. So not quite today, but coming at you tomorrow there. Interesting expiration cycles here in small caps. What is the volume, might be wondering, in these near-dated contracts? And that contract in particular is at a 21.68, off about 4.8 handles. If we go a little bit farther out, though, let's go out a couple of weeks. That vol is hanging out at the low 20s. Looks like 21 to roughly 23 in that range. So a little bit farther than what we're seeing out there in fixed land. And again, that's to be expected. We expect small caps to be more volatile than large caps. We'll do a twofer on the skew analysis front because it's hard to really sink our teeth into 0.8 day to go skew, listeners. But in that case, the puts last week were about 3% bid. They're flat this week. The calls were 1% cheap. This week, 2% discounted. So not much evolution on the skew front. If you go a little bit farther out, though, let's go out a couple of weeks. Those puts, not much evolution really there either. The puts were about 6% bid last week and a little bit less this week. So yeah, not a lot of evolution on the skew front, which is interesting given what we had going on. If we go out a full month, about 30 days, the puts last week, about 7% bid, and this week, 7% bid again. The calls about flat this week, 2.2% discounted. So very surprising given the Fed action this week and the huge underlying move in the Russell 2000 that we're not seeing a little bit more evolution on the skew. Again, that's why we have to crunch the numbers, listeners. And what is the big dog out here in the Russell 2000 this week? It is the 22 half calls, again, going out in 0.8 days. They did almost 4,000 contracts this week, about 3,700. So that is the big dog in the rut this week. Pretty active contract all week long, with the exception of Monday. Only 90 contracts on Monday. The rest of the week, they're pretty hot. 1347 on Tuesday, 1166 yesterday, and 1067 today. It was closing all week long, and today's OI goes up against, today's volume, I should say, goes up against an OI of 2422, so they could be closing again today as well. I should note we are about 5 handles through that strike now, so it makes some sense as we're blowing through strikes that people were taking stuff off. The interesting thing is that people were taking stuff off before the Fed, taking stuff off on Tuesday and on Wednesday. You got a picture, a lot of that paper was probably maybe pre-Fed. So yeah, interesting closing paper on Tuesday even. Usually people want to wait and see what the Fed does, then they take their positions off, but not on the 22 half calls in the rut this week, which again, that's why we crunch the numbers here. Listeners, let's go around a little bit too, because rut's always an interesting beast. There's some near-dated paper, and then there's some longer-term paper as well. In this case, it's the 2500s going out in 29 days in October. They did about 1,700 contracts so far this week as well, so pretty active out there. What is the vol in the October contracts? 21.5, off 1.5 points. Like we said, the skew not really moving much this week. Puts 5% bid last week, 6% bid this week. A little bit of a tick up there. The calls 2% cheap last week, this week 4% cheap. So puts a little bit spicier. The calls a little bit cheaper, but otherwise not a heck of a lot going on out there. But it was the 2500s. Again, these are fair way out of the money, listeners. We're at 2276 in that October cycle. So 2500 is a long way to go, and they went up about 1,700 times this week. Almost all of that yesterday. 1,500 going up yesterday. 1,500 and change, all opening. So actually, no, it looks like we had a 2,500, 2,600 vertical going up yesterday. That seems to be where that paper is coming from. Opening on both legs, so we're not seeing a roll. So 2,500, 2,600 vertical. I like it better than just naked opening the 2,500s, obviously. A little bit more risk mitigated, reducing your outlay out there. It's still a long way to go to make this vertical relevant, but I guess if you're going to do it, that's probably the better way to go about it. Let's look here really quickly if you see any other interesting and or aberrant paper before we let you folks onto the show with me this week. How about if 2,500s in October isn't too far up the chain and also not far enough out in time for you? How about the 2,400s expiring in December, a full 91 days to go? They went up exactly 1,000 times this week as well. But interestingly enough, exactly 1,000, so you expect it to be one block of 1,000. But no, they were active all week long. 531 today, 411 yesterday, 28 on Tuesday, 30 on Monday. What a weird mix, all adding up to exactly 1,000. Today's paper, 531 against an OI of 1239. It's like they were bailing on some of these yesterday. Again, we got a nice little rip, but not quite threatening the 2,400 handle, at least not yet. But intriguing. So that's why we like sinking our teeth into the rut, because it's not just an explosion of picking up nickels in front of the steamroller, selling puts, and also just an explosion of near-dated madness. There is some of that, obviously, but also a little bit more, dare I say it, nuanced paper going up out here as well. So 2,400s in December. You like those, listeners? That future, by the way, at, again, 2276. So it's got a ways to go, about 125 points or close to it. So you like those? Trade up 1,000 going up this week. Intriguing stuff. And you know what's always intriguing to us, listeners? It's a little bit of your futures options feedback.
It's time for your questions, comments, and insights. It's time for Futures Options Feedback. Submit your questions at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, stocktwits.com/optionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com. You can also submit your feedback via our Options Insider Radio Network mobile app, available for iOS, Android, and Kindle Fire devices. You can even ask your questions live via our Mixlr chat room. So grab the Mixlr app or just search for Options Insider at Mixlr.com. That's Mixlr.com.
All right, everybody, let's get to it. Let you folks take the reins. Join me here on the show, a little bit of your futures options feedback. And this week's question actually is very pertinent to listeners of this show. It's our question of the week. You can play along at options over there on the old Twitter. A lot of you already doing so, obviously. If you did that, you would see that our question of the week has to do with some of your favorites, others of your least favorite. It is crypto, in particular Bitcoin, which is our number one percentage mover and our number one light side mover this week on the show. So we have good timing with these questions, listeners. And we asked you, Bitcoin has lived many lives over the past decade. We now have quite a bit of data under our belts, but the debate still rages. What role does Bitcoin really play in a modern portfolio? Gave you three choices and the infamous other. Is digital gold uncorrelated asset class, just another tech stock, or other? And if you've listened into this show for a while, this is a topic we've attempted to tackle many times on this show, looking at things like cross-correlation reports and others. It is a bit of a moving target, unfortunately. It's hard to really pin down. Bitcoin correlation tends to change almost seasonally sometimes, it seems like. So nailing it down as one thing is challenging, but nonetheless, we put it up to you folks to be the ultimate arbiters of all things. And right now, listeners, you folks are having a hard time making up your mind, which again, I get it. Bitcoin correlation, a bit of a moving target. Right now, we have a tie exactly for number one, exactly a third, 33.3% each, choosing it's an uncorrelated asset class, followed by exactly a third saying it's just another tech stock. And you know what? You're both right, and you're both wrong at the same time, because it does a little bit of all of that. Lately, it does seem to be lapping with the tech stocks a lot of late. So if you're looking at a more recent frame of reference, I could certainly see why you would think that. We've had a lot of guests on our Crypto Rundown show come on and argue. It's really just a high-tech allocation at the end of the day. Those folks are also the early adopters in the equity world that would be investing in Bitcoin. So it makes sense that when they're buying and when they're having to sell off, that it would correlate with sell-offs and buys in Bitcoin. So there's a lot of that. Fund flows are similar. So I could see why people would be choosing that. So that's a tie for number one right now. And then number two, it's digital gold. Some folks still coming in on that train. For me, that was kind of busted. And then the whole deal was it's digital gold. It's an inflation hedge. It's a great inflation play. I was just discussing this with our guest on the option block a little while ago. For me, that bubble kind of burst when we saw rampant inflation in the last few years. And we saw, of course, Bitcoin very aggressively sell off in that same period, which again, if it's an inflation hedge, didn't really do its job very well. Different beast now, obviously, but that for me kind of put a little bit of the kibosh to the digital gold. Nonetheless, 25.6% of you saying you think of it as digital gold, and then 7.7% of you choosing other. Some of you saying it's a bad retirement lottery ticket, and others saying it's just a meme stock. Again, all of you could be right at any given moment. If you want to make your voice heard, at Options is the place to go as we're winding down things here, listeners, in the Southern studio. So I need to get going on this episode of TWIFO. I want to thank all of you for joining us here for this Just the Facts edition. We are done for today, at least beaming in from the Southern studio. More content to come, though, from down here, including tomorrow I will be recording vol views from here in the Southern studio, so look forward to that tomorrow. Then after that, for our friends on the pro side, I come back one final time to hold court for a little old options oddities. You want to check that out for yourselves. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. And you already know where to go to check out our great reports here on the TWIFO show. CMEgroup.com/TWIFO, TWIFO, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. Then we're off for the weekend. Like the rest of you, take a nice respite away from your screens. And we're back again next week, another episode of This Week in Futures Options. Stay safe out there, everybody.
This Week in Futures Options is brought to you by CME Group, the world's leading and most diverse futures and options exchange. CME Group's markets help individuals and businesses around the world manage risks and seize opportunities. CME Group offers the deepest and most liquid options on futures across all asset classes, including interest rates, equity indexes, foreign exchange, energy, agriculture, and metals. For more information and educational resources about futures options at CME Group, visit cmegroup.com/options. This broadcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute trading advice or the solicitation of purchases or sale of any futures or options. The rulebook of the applicable exchange should be consulted as the authoritative source on all current contract specifications. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.